Welcome to Q-Score, where each week I, me, the Q and Q-Score take you behind the scenes of the television and film music you love. My next guest has become a go-to guy if you need to make a high-profile movie musical in this town. Matt Sullivan started as Associate Music Supervisor on the Academy Award-winning film Chicago, where he's mentored by Maureen Crowe, now the president of the Guild of Music Supervisors. And from there, took off like a musical rocket, from Dreamgirls to Hairspray to Tom Cruise and Rock of Ages, all the way to his great work on Disney's Saving Mr. Banks, for which he was just nominated today for Motion Picture Under $35 Million by the Music Supervisor Guild of America, whose awards will take place on February 26th, right here in Los Angeles. Working consistently in Hollywood is all about reputation, and Matt has built one up as a go-to guy who delivers time and time again. We're so glad to have him with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, Matt Sullivan. Welcome to Q-Score. I am Jonathan McHugh, and my guest with me today is Mr. Matt Sullivan. What's up, buddy?
On, man?
Congratulations on your Guild of Music Supervisor Award.
Just found
nomination.
Out about 2 minutes ago.
You know, we like to surprise you people here on Q-Score.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. That's
so
great.
We'll talk about that, but let's start at the beginning. We talked about, I mentioned in the intro, you came up under Maureen and doing Chicago. Mm-hmm. Tell me jumping into a big picture like that with Richard Gere and Renee Zellweger and all these high-profile people, what was that like for you?
I mean, Maureen just is the best at what she does. She did Bodyguard, so she gave me all the tools, taught me how to do it, and I come in with a lot of technical skills.
What are some of your technical skills?
I'm really pretty proficient at Pro Tools and a lot of other recording stuff. Editing and just the knowledge of what you can do, can't do. And also I think a big thing is, once you get on the set and into the recording studio, is just, making people feel comfortable, feel at home, confidence in you. And I feel like I kind of bring that to the table with the technical stuff. So you have, creative, technical, and just, personality that you can just meld with people pretty well. So I kind of.
So you're a musician yourself, right?
Yeah.
So being a musician and obviously doing musicals, how has that helped you to have the ear for, creating pre-records and working? Because it's a very different skill set from many of the other music supervisors that don't do a lot of pre-records. Talk about the pre-record experience and that.
I mean, just being a musician, it's I don't know how else to describe it, but when I went into Chicago and I was sitting on the set and working with Rob Marshall on the tracks and editing and doing we actually did a lot of mixing on the set of the way he wanted to hear it because it's important for the dance, with the choreography. So I just kind of always felt like I was a duck in water. I just jumped in and sitting on the set of Chicago was my second set. It was my third movie. It was my second set that I've been on as a music supervisor, and I just felt really comfortable, and I just knew what I was doing. I just don't know how else to describe it.
That's half the battle, right?
I just knew what I was doing, and I just had fun, and that's the big thing. People want to hire you because if you sit on a set for rehearsals, pre-records. I'm on movies for about a year, sometimes over a year, and you really got to get along with people, and they want to be around you all the time, so they have to be around you all the time.
Right. In talking to people, in this context, your world is different. Like a lot of times, supervisors don't come in until post-production.
Yeah.
A lot of times, your work may be almost over by post-production. Not always, but sometimes. Because the pre-record process is so intense. Talk about what pre-records are and how you have to have the music recorded for a musical before you go shoot the musical.
Yeah, I mean, that's the most common way is to pre-record all the music. Obviously there's a couple other films that do it differently, but for really the purpose of pre-recording is people that may not be able to sing live for 8 hours in a day, sing at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning. Also just getting, really for editing, is as long as the music's in tempo and it's all like locked, you can actually edit because all the different takes and coverage. You shoot a musical sequence over the course of a day or two sometimes. So shooting all those, by the end of the day, the actor's voice is just completely shredded, because when you're lip syncing, you're singing along with the track. So you actually are singing throughout the whole entire day. So the pre-records, it's really is for editing, really for the quality of sound. We have on a noisy street, you go from one song goes from a noisy street to a sound stage, and it's a continuity of sound, so it feels like, and you can manipulate that later in post-production of making it sound like it's on the street, making it sound like it's in a room or a dance hall. So just giving you all those tools and those ways to make it feel as real as you can in a pre-record. And the big thing with pre-record is also we deal with a lot of choreography of getting the dance will be all rehearsed to that tempo. The dancers and the actors know exactly what they're doing on the day, so the shooting goes a lot smoother.
And so then you went, after Chicago, you went into your own thing. You jumped out and did your own thing with Rent, which was a high-profile, not just a musical, but a powerful subject matter that was one of the biggest plays in Broadway history. Tell us about that experience and what that was like.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite experiences so far as a music supervisor. I had a lot of incredible experiences, but on Rent, it was a lot of the cast was from the show from the 90s, and then also there was Rosario Dawson added to the mix. So they really knew what they were doing going in, and our job was to take it and kind of make it for the film versus the stage, and kind of get them out of their comfort zone of what they would fall back into if they were just doing it on the stage. I think we did a pretty good job on that. It was a tough film to make, not in the process of making it, but actually the subject matter and everything. It was quite a challenge to make that film palatable to the general audience. But it was probably one of my best experiences.
What made it great for you?
It was all the people. Chris Columbus is a great guy. He's a great director. We had so much fun on the set. All the actors, they were just, it was one of the biggest, when we were wrapping on production, it was tears everywhere because it was almost a really big family that we had. It was for the most part, the cast all were so involved. There was like 8 cast members that were involved all the way from rehearsals to wrapping, and therefore, a lot of films you have people that come in and out and maybe sing a song or two, and they're just kind of come and go, and you kind of work sporadically with different people. This was 8 people all the time. They were in most of the scenes together, so that it was just a really good family experience. And you can see I talk a lot about pre-production and production.
Well, that's a big part of what the world is. I mean, I did one musical and I spent 6 months in a studio working on making all those tracks. So, and then there's the 6 months that goes into making the movie. It's a year-plus process, right?
I start off, I'm typically the first one hired on the film besides the writer and maybe the casting director. I'm usually like the 3rd or 4th person hired on the film. And then usually at the end of when we watch the final mix of the movie, the director and I are sitting next to each other, shake each other's hands. We're like, "I'll see you at the premiere," So right. So it's over a year of work. It starts off from either going to Tom Cruise's house and trying to convince him to do the movie, sitting around with a piano player and listening to him sing.
Just trying to get him comfortable.
Just get him comfortable. See if he feels comfortable about doing it. Starts from that point to. Did the same thing with Al Pacino recently.
What was the movie with Al Pacino?
It's called Imagined. It will come out this year sometime. Wow. It's an independent film, like a $5 million movie. He's up there singing. He plays an older kind of Neil Diamond-ish rocker guy,
right?
Who's kind of lost his way. Used to be a great rootsy songwriter, and he kind of lost his way along his path.
Mm-hmm. So you have to get inside these actors' heads to really
make them feel comfortable, make them feel like
they can do it.
They can do it. We can if we turn Tom Cruise, Mr. Top Gun, into a rocker guy in Rock of Ages.
He killed it. I think
it's one of his best performances.
Yeah.
It's Pour Some Sugar on Me. We were shooting it. It was mayhem. The crowd, the extras. I can't even call them extras because they were just there. They were being paid to be there, but they were just. In between takes, we couldn't even hear each other talk to each other. It was so loud, and it was in a real venue in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So we couldn't
And this
even
was
hear
on
it.
Rock of Ages.
On Rock of Ages.
Which was, again, was another big musical that was converted.
Yeah, converted a
into
lot
film.
of it from Broadway to a lot of it is stage to film,
Right, like Hairspray started out where? As a film
It started off
first?
as the John Waters movie
Right.
with Ricky Lake, which was not a musical, had
Right.
music in it, and then
Became a play.
Mark Shaman and Scott Whitman wrote the words and music for the play, and then we turned it back into a musical movie from the play.
Right. So
Yeah.
that's a rare instance where it goes back and forth like that, right?
Yeah. I do a lot of that, and also the big focus for me now is it's kind of like what I've been known for is the on-camera experience.
Right.
So doing things with Al Pacino and Imagined.
So let me take you back though. So on Dreamgirls, you did then you did Dreamgirls, where you worked with Randy Spenlove, who's a good friend of ours and runs music at Paramount, and that won a Grammy, right, for best. What did
Dreamgirls was Grammy for
best
song.
Best song.
The best song.
Right.
Love You, I
And
Do.
so again, same thing, coming from a musical into a film musical.
Yeah.
That was Jennifer Hudson, right?
Jennifer Hudson, yeah.
And so she killed it, and that really helped launch
Yeah.
her career. The right musical can do great by you.
Yeah, it can
or
really,
you do
yeah.
the wrong musical, like other people have done on Sgt. Pepper's back in the day, and it can hurt you.
Yeah.
Tell us about that experience.
On Dreamgirls?
Yeah.
Dreamgirls was, it was, Randy and I, he found himself independent after Miramax went away, and Bill Condon, who wrote Chicago, approached both of us to do the movie separately, and then he's just basically said, I want both of you guys. So we decided to do it together, and we were just kind of locked, arm in arm through well over a year, and we worked with the underdogs and they're in pre-records and production, and the four of us. It was so much music in that movie that we just, after a while, we just started taking turns. We would basically high five each other.
How many different songs do you figure in that movie?
I had to be like 30, if not more, probably more, like 35.
Is that a standard
33.
number for a big musical?
Usually somewhere between like 15 to like 30.
Right.
Yeah, usually around, maybe sometimes with all the different bits and pieces, even more sometimes. But like Dreamgirls was like wall-to-wall music. So, we would high-five each other. I'd be doing like B3 organ with our player, just doing overdubs, and then I'd leave at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and someone would come walking in like 8 and start doing, drums or something, and then it was just nonstop. It was a factory going. It was kind of crazy, and the vocals was just so many singing, and Jennifer, was so focused on making, and I am telling you, her own homage to it and her own performance, that it's Jennifer Holliday's performance is so iconic that how do you do that song but not do it karaoke?
Right.
So we recorded that song about eight different times.
Really?
And then finally at like the 8th time, we just brought Jennifer in, and it's a very skeleton crew, not too many people in the studio, and just said, just go in the dark room, be by yourself for a few minutes, step up to mic, we'll hit play, and I think we got it in like 2 takes. She just threw it all away and just got rid of all the garbage out of her head and just went for it. And that's what's in the
And then
movie.
also in a non-musical film, Pirates, you got to do a little sea shanty action, right? Which
Yeah.
it wasn't really a musical at all, but you got in there, do a little bit of your get the Irish roots
Got to
in
go
there.
hang out in Hawaii for a while.
Yeah, talk about that one for a second.
Rob Marshall, who I've did Chicago and the movie also 9, another musical. He and I have done a lot of stuff together. He went from when we finished 9 in 2009, I think it was. It was announced he was doing Pirates of the Caribbean, and he just said, I got some ideas for some music bits and some sea shanties, which I actually got to arrange and help write some of the sea shanties.
So you're a sea shanty writer now.
I'm a sea shanty writer. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was
So that's the
good.
thing
It was
about this
kinda funny.
business, like you never know what you end up doing.
Never know. You never know. It's the best part about it. Every day is a different day.
Mm-hmm.
Every single day I wake up and you have an idea of what's going to happen in a day, but next thing you know you're somewhere else, zigzagging somewhere else. So it's kind of cool.
Right, and then Footloose, you did another movie turned musical.
Yeah, and that was also kind of what I do is working with a lot of choreographers in town. I've a lot of them are good friends now, and really the big thing is to take music and help the dance and the choreography. And I'm not much of a dancer, but I actually, for some reason, I get it, and I just understand what they need out of the music.
You see the rhythm and you understand.
See the rhythm, the tempos, getting the vibe of the track right for them. Because choreographers sometimes have sometimes too much input on the music.
Right.
But it's they need to be inspired to create a visual, and that's really what we're doing. We're creating visuals with music. I hate it's I'm not a big fan of people who think that music is wallpaper, which happens a lot, and a lot of times the music is kind of forgotten about in the wash, but it's really what's driving the visual, and I'm kind of I get into that a lot, and that was in Footloose. It was really getting the dance right, and making those dance scenes really pop.
And then how does that translate to TV when you worked on Smash? What's the difference of the big screen to the small screen when it comes to musicals?
Well, I did the pilot of Smash, and after that I went on to do Rock of Ages, so I jumped right off of Smash right into Rock of Ages. So for Smash, it was a different world for me because I don't really work in television that much, and I've done a couple pilots along the way, and it was a big learning experience for me, learning that the director sometimes just shoots.
Yeah, it's a producer. It's a producer controlled.
It's a producer controlled, and on Smash, you had Mark Shaman, Scott Whitman, and Craig Zeta, Neil Marin, who I've worked with them on Hairspray, and
you've done a bunch of stuff.
Craig and Neil, a bunch of stuff with those guys. So they brought me in to we had to create a. It was a pilot, but we had to show that the show was viable, and how do you make it? Glee had. The comparison is always to Glee because it's a musical show, and you have guys creating that music and turning around pretty quickly. And how do we create? They're doing a lot of mostly covers. We're creating new music, new songs, and having to get it done on a weekly basis at a budget. And so I was brought in to kind of figure out how to make that process happen, with especially with all the personalities of Mark, Scott, Craig, Neil, Teresa.
It's a big personality game.
Teresa, who was the
speaking
showrunner.
of personalities, tell us about Banks, because obviously you have the Sherman brothers, who are some of the greatest writers of all time, who worked for Disney, who created this amazing music, and then they had to convince the writer of Mary Poppins to let them do. Walt Disney had to physically do it himself, right, to convince it. Great historical story. Really,
really cool. And when you hear about it, you read the script, you're kind of like, well, this is an interesting story. It's really the behind the scenes that people love to hear about, the behind the scenes. I'm a big fan of behind the scenes. I like watching the DVD back, behind the scenes stuff. It's really cool to see how movies are made, and especially something as iconic as Mary Poppins. But then they also handed me 4 hours of the actual tape footage, the actual audio
tapes, which are great.
Tapes. And at the end, we threw them in there, and I threw them into Pro Tools so I could skip through, look at all the waveforms, because it was, I just look for like where they talked a lot and everything. So I just listened down to pretty much everything, and it was, I got to work with Richard Sherman. It's in his living room.
Wow.
I decided for that, the director basically said, look, here's the music scenes. I want them as real as possible. Help me with the dialogue. Help me with how it's going to be set up. Help me with everything. I just want to feel like you're inside the rehearsal room. The audience is watching this music being created. I don't want to kind of like, well, this is kind of how it's done. He's like, I want to feel it. I want the language to be right. I want the playing to be correct. I want it to sound as raw and as real as possible. So we did a lot. So the first thing I did was I went to Richard's house with Jason Schwartzman, and we just sat around and talked for about 2 hours. And then we went back another day, and we sat around the piano, and Richard played us all the songs.
God, that's
amazing. And then I kind of started getting into a little bit of
amazing experience.
I got into Chitty Chitty Bang Bang and everything else, but so it was really cool because you have the actual guy who you're playing who's playing in the film, and I just took my iPhone out and videotaped him playing, and I transcribed it, and also I had some old demos, I took a little merge of the demos from the '60s and his playing of today and how he plays, and we came up with some sheet music. And I brought in Randy Kerber to do the pre-records. Jason played a little bit live on camera, but I brought in Randy Kerber, who's one of the best piano players in town, and he watched the videos and had Richard Sherman there. And in the pre-records, Richard was like, "That's me playing. I can hear me playing." So
that's beautiful.
It's
and that's your job right there in a nutshell.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah. So we're out of time, but real quick, tell us about your next couple films coming up.
Imagined with Al Pacino.
Right, you mentioned that.
Really cool. And then also Can a Song Save Your Life?
Yeah, that was a big sale in Toronto, right?
Yeah, 2 summers ago, I guess it was.
2 years ago already.
Yeah.
It dealt with Yoko Ono, John Lennon.
No, Can a Song Save Your Life is Imagined is about the story about John and Yoko writing a letter to a songwriter. But Can a Song Save Your Life is probably one fantastic movie. It was the biggest sale at the Toronto Film Festival this year. It's got incredible music. Still today, I listen to the songs every day. I listen to at least one of the songs every day, written by Greg Alexander and Danielle Brisbois.
New Radicals.
Yeah, New Radicals.
Great
and they wrote.
And then Annie. Tell us about that one real quick.
Annie is Quvenzhané Wallace. She plays Annie, and it's Jamie Foxx is the Daddy Warbucks character, different name. And Sia helped us write 3 new original songs, which I think will get some recognition. She helped create. She and Greg Kirsten, who's our music producer, helped take the original songs from the show and flip them on its head and make them contemporary of today, because it takes place in today, 2014. And Sia is incredible. Greg Kirsten's one of the best music producers.
Who does Hard Knock Live?
Who did it?
Yeah.
It's pretty much Greg Kirsten and I.
Wow, can't wait to hear it.
Putting it together, so it's really cool. We actually just got off the phone with them, coming up with some ideas.
Well, congratulations on your
Guild
nomination.
I'm excited. February 26th.
Yes, don't
miss
miss
it.
it.
Go.
Thank you all. Q Score, Matt Sullivan. Peace out. For more Q Score, please check us out at emPOWERme.tv to find out what goes on behind the curtain and how the film and TV music gets made. It happens right here. Tune in.